Okay, so we'll start lying down. Take your time to come to a comfortable position, whatever that is for you in this moment, whether that's, so lying on your back, whether that's with legs outstretched or knees bent and soles of the feet on the mat. You might have knees, if you've got soles of the feet on the mat, you might have knees resting together. Maybe explore taking the feet out a little wider so that the knees are really falling against each other. And just seeing if you can have your arms in a comfortable position and one where there's a sense of supporting or helping the shoulders to ease down into the ground, into the mat a little more. So you might explore taking your arms to that kind of mountain pose place where the elbow creases are facing up towards the ceiling, the backs of the hands are resting on the floor and the arms are out at a slight angle from the body. But most importantly, taking a position that feels comfortable and supported for you. Taking your time to settle and to find steadiness and eventually stillness in the body. And as you come to steadiness in the body, noticing the connection between the body and the ground, noticing all the parts of the body in contact with the ground, feeling and accessing that stability and steadiness from the ground itself, feeling and noticing a sense of steadiness in the body. And then starting to bring some steadiness to the mind, using the breath to help you with that. So just allowing your mind to start to focus on the breath. So just allow the breath to be in its natural state, its natural rhythm. And the mind, which most of the time in our kind of normal day-to-day state for most of us will tend to be full of lots of things, it feels like all at once, or darting here, there and everywhere. Just seeing if you can start to help the mind to find a little more steadiness by encouraging it to just focus on the breath. And that might just be for a breath before you notice that the mind has become distracted and is thinking about something else or listening to something else or paying attention to a sensation in the body or all kinds of other distractions that might crowd in. But just seeing if you can notice that without judgment, and in that noticing, to take the opportunity to try and gently guide the mind's attention back to the breath. Again, seeing if you can find, even if it's a moment or a breath of steadiness, greater steadiness in the mind. So we might think of our yoga practice as offering us this opportunity to find a little bit of steadiness and stillness in amongst the relative busyness of our days, of our waking hours. And by busyness, I mean that kind of busyness in the mind that's of necessity as we negotiate our way through our days, whatever that is for us. And that our yoga practice can perhaps be a time that we carve out for ourselves where we can support the mind in just becoming a little steadier, just as we might work in our practice on finding steadiness in the body, that we we also work on finding steadiness in the mind, leaving behind whatever has come before and whatever there is to come after this practice. If you want to set an intention for your practice today, then take a moment to do that now. Seeing what comes up for you. Maybe it takes the form of an affirmation. I am present, I am steady. But just seeing what comes up for you, take a moment to set that intention now if you want to. And now, if you haven't already, bend your knees and bring soles of the feet to the mat. So the feet are out hip width apart and just in a comfortable position so that you feel like you can nurture a really good connection between all parts of each foot and the mat. Just bring your focus to your feet a little more now, consciously noticing the connection, the contact between the toes and the mat, the ball of the foot, the outer edge of the foot, the heel. So you're not kind of like pressing down really hard through here, you're just taking the time to notice first of all. And then maybe see if you can subtly bring a little bit more engagement between each of those parts of the foot and the mat. So again, you're not using lots of kind of muscular effort. So we're working on a subtler rather than a gross level in terms of just finding a little more engagement, active engagement between the foot and the mat. Bring your focus more fully to your left foot now. See if you can keep working in that same way, just with the left foot now, and get a bit more active. So there's a little bit more sense of bringing a bit more kind of muscular effort in now. Not necessarily to the maximum, but just more actively pressing the foot down into the mat. So that in doing so, you become automatically lighter on the right foot. Check in with the lower back, but the lower back feels well supported by the mat here. And maybe see how it feels to draw navel in towards spine to help with that support. So you're light on the right foot now, keep pressing down through the left foot. You have your arms still alongside you as they were. And on your next inhale, lift the right foot up and then let the right knee draw in towards you. So keep your arms alongside you as long as that feels okay and safe for your practice. If you need to have the hands involved in drawing the knee in, then no problem. But otherwise, keep the arms alongside you. Navel towards spine. Just let the knee come in towards you wherever it comes. A couple of breaths here. Keep pressing down through the left foot. Navel towards spine. On your next inhale, raise your right foot up a little. You're not straightening the leg, but just raise it up a little so that you have space then on your next exhale to draw the right foot over towards the left and bring the right ankle to rest on the front of the left thigh. So ideally, you're bringing the ankle to the left thigh rather than the heel or the foot. Of course, it depends on different bodies. It might be that the heel or the foot is what's available to you. But do explore, if you're finding that as you come over, it's the heel or the foot that's reaching rather than the ankle, maybe explore coming back to center, taking the right foot up a little higher before you then come across to the left, just to see if that offers you any more scope to bring the ankle onto the thigh. So you're not striving to get anywhere that doesn't feel comfortable and right for your body, but just exploring whether bringing a bit more openness around the hip helps you to access that. Once you've got the ankle on the thigh, then bring attention to the right foot. Flex the foot. So by that I mean have the toes drawing back towards the right knee. And in that way you'll protect the knee. Bring your right hand onto your right thigh. And on your exhale, explore easing the right knee away from you. So the right hand is there to kind of give some help with that, but what you're not doing is just kind of using lots of muscular effort with that right hand and right arm and just pushing the knee away from you. You're gently exploring easing the right knee away from you. Keep the right foot flexed, so toe drawing back towards the right knee. Keep pressing down through the left foot. And you're looking to find a bit of sensation in the right hip. So if you're finding that, if you're noticing a bit of sensation and that feels like a bit of opportunity to find, to release some tension, ease out through that right hip, then work with that. Start to breathe into the right hip, and on each exhale, have a sense of releasing a little bit of holding, a bit of tension in that right hip. If you're not feeling anything in the right hip, then see how it feels to draw the left heel up. So you've just got the ball of the left foot on the mat now. And then you can kind of keep navel towards spine as you shuffle the left foot in towards the left buttock a little more. Keep then easing the right knee away from you. So that's the key action here. Keep easing the right knee away from you. It might be that you're feeling something now. If you're not, then you could take hands behind your left thigh. If you have a yoga strap handy, or if you're watching this on recorded and want to grab one, feel free to. Then you could use a yoga strap so that you can keep the shoulders more releasing down into the mat. Otherwise, take hands behind the left thigh and then inhale, lift the left foot up. Start to draw the left knee, the left thigh in towards you, all the while still easing the right knee away from you. And just playing with that until you get to a place where you're feeling that sensation in the right hip. And just coming to a place where you feel like you can find some steadiness now, so that the body can feel steady here. So this feels sustainable. So just noticing, you know, maybe the ego mind has got involved and you've kind of gone into striving mode and taken it to the maximum, and you might recognize that easing off a little would work and serve you best in this moment. But find a place that you can sustain for a little while longer. And then as the body comes to steadiness, as the breath comes to steadiness, as you get into that pattern of breathing into the right hip, breathing out of the right hip, then let the mind come to steadiness too. So as we come into a pose, whether it's familiar to us or newer to us, then the mind will tend to be very busy figuring all of that out and thinking about what it needs to focus on next and where it needs to refine. And whilst part of our yoga practice is absolutely about, you know, exploring the body and finding refinement in poses, seeing if you can let go of that busyness in the mind and let the mind for the last few breaths now just be with the breath. So trust in wherever you are now and just be with the breath. Great. Okay, if you've got the left foot lifted up off the mat, then use an exhale to replace the left foot onto the mat. Have the arms back alongside you now. And then on your next inhale, raise the right foot up again. Again, you don't need to straighten the leg, but just raise the right foot up a little so the ankle comes off the left knee. And then use an exhale to take the right leg over to the left, and then bring the right thigh on top of the left thigh. And then you can release the lower right leg and foot just to sort of relax down. So your leg, you've got one thigh on top of the other, legs across, a little like it would be if you might do if you were sat in a chair. You're just crossing one leg over the other. Okay. So you can either stay here. We're exploring some rotation of the hips there with the hips coming inwards. So a rotation that we don't explore so often. We might be used to the hips sort of hugging into the midline. We might be used to opening the hip, rotating the hips out, but the hips can also rotate stay here, or you might want to explore, so don't do it yet, but in a moment we'll explore lifting the left foot up off the mat. So before you do that, just check in with the lower back, draw navel in towards spine so you've got some support there. And then on an inhale, pick the left foot up, let the knees draw in towards you. You can either stay here, or you can take one hand on top of each knee and maybe explore drawing the knees in towards you a little more. You might also explore whether there's scope for the right foot to wrap around the back of the left leg. So to do that, just inhale the left foot up a little more, so the left leg temporarily becomes a little bit straighter to offer you the space to explore taking the right foot to wrap around the left calf. Any complaints from the knees, back off, you know, come to another variation that feels comfortable for the knees. If you've got the legs wrapped around, then you could kind of lower the feet back down to, so you've got that bend in the knees again. You can explore drawing the knees in towards you. So these are all just variations you can explore. It's not that one of them is more advanced or inherently better than any other, but just playing with some variations there, and then coming to a place of stillness, of steadiness that feels right for you. And again, as you do that, settling in with the breath, having a sense here, if it feels helpful, of breathing into both hips, breathing out of both hips, and bring the mind to steadiness. Let the mind just be with the breath for a few rounds now. Okay, so if you've got the right foot wrapped around the lower part of the left leg, then just release that now. You can still keep the legs crossed. Feet might be up off the mat with knees drawing in towards you, or you might have soles of the feet on the mat. Either is fine. Take your arms now so that they're resting on the mat at shoulder height. They could be outstretched, or you could have cactus arms here. Take an inhale. As you exhale, take the knees over to the right. So you're coming into a twist here with the knees over to the right. Any twinges in the lower back, then come back to center. And you could, if you've got the feet lifted, you might take the feet down to the mat and then explore taking the knees over to the right from there instead. They don't need to reach the ground. You can just kind of explore where they go to. Or the other thing to do would be to take the twist to the other side. That might feel better for the lower back. So in which case you're exploring taking the knees over to the left. If you've taken the knees over to the right, then inhale back to center, and then take the knees over to the left for a few breaths. Again, just exploring wherever feels okay for you here. If none of this feels okay for the lower back, then keep the legs at center. Okay, then inhale back to center. So wherever you are now, inhale back to center. And then you can use an inhale to unravel the legs, the feet, and then an exhale to replace feet or foot back down onto the mat. So you're back with soles of the feet on the mat, feet hip width apart. Just allow a few breaths here, taking that time to notice how the body is, notice how the breath is, And notice how the mind is too. See if you can again let all three come to a greater sense of steadiness. Now start to engage more through the right foot. So just seeing if you can really stay steady and present as you come to explore this on the other side. It can be very easy for the mind to race ahead and think, you know, we know what we need to do here. Let's just hurry up and do it. So consciously engaging the right foot, pressing the right foot into the mat more. Draw navel in towards spine. Arms are alongside you. And when you're ready, inhale and lift the left foot up and just let the knee draw in towards you. So a few breaths there, just with the knee drawing in towards you. Lovely. So you're just allowing that kind of deep bend, that flexion in the hip joint there to start with. On your next inhale, raise the left foot, giving you enough space to then exhale the foot over to the right, bring the ankle to rest on the thigh. So again, you might explore how much kind of space you might need to create for that ankle to reach the thigh if you can. Flex the toes back towards the knee, the left toes back towards the left knee, and then you can take the left hand onto the thigh. Start to explore easing the left knee away from you. So if it feels like it introduces more tension to have the left hand on the thigh and you're happier keeping the arms alongside you and just ease the knee away from you anyway, that's fine too. Whatever feels best for you. And again, just come to the left hip. It might feel very different on this side, and where you felt no sensation in this position on one side, you might feel plenty on this side, or vice versa. So if you're feeling it in the left hip, come to the breath, start breathing into and out of the hip. If you're not, then you can come up onto the ball of the right foot, shuffle the right foot in towards the buttock more. Again, that might be enough. Keep that key action of the left knee drawing away from you. So you're getting that rotation going on in the hip. If you're still not feeling it, then you can explore taking hands or a strap behind the right side, drawing the right knee, the right thigh in towards you, but keep the left knee drawing away from you. That's the key action to start to find that easing out or sensation in the hip. So, you know, that can feel quite intense for many of us. We can tend to hold a lot in our hips. So we're looking to try and invite some easing out of some of that tension. If you can allow the shoulders to be soft here. So even if they're kind of picked up off the mat a little by dint of being around the thigh, for example, see if on each exhale you can find a bit more softening in the shoulders. And come to a place of steadiness for a few breaths here now. Steadiness in the body, steadiness in the mind, as you allow the mind to be with the breath, as you allow the breath to breathe into and breathe out of the hip. Okay, if you've got the right foot lifted up off the mat, then exhale and bring the right foot down so you can let go of the right thigh. If you've got hold of that as well, bring the arms back alongside you. And use an inhale to raise the left foot, and as you exhale, draw the left leg over to the right, bring the left thigh to rest on top of the right thigh. Let the lower leg just relax there now, and you can either stay here or explore variations here. So that might include picking the right foot up. So if you're doing that, draw the navel in towards the spine, keep the lower back supported before you then inhale and pick the right foot up and let the knees draw in towards you. You can stay there, or you can take hands on top of knees. And again, this isn't, you know, you don't need to treat this as a progression, but just as some things for you to explore. So you might try one thing for a few breaths, and then find that actually what you want to go to is a variation where you've got the right foot on the mat. That's what feels good for you. So just exploring here. And again, you might explore taking the left foot around the back of the lower right leg. So doing that by raising the right foot up to give you enough space to explore there. Don't maintain any pose that causes any discomfort to the knee. And again, see if you can find some steadiness here now. Use the breath to help you find that steadiness in the body and in the mind. So in the body, it can help you find that greater sense of steadiness by bringing your focus, really bringing your focus to the hips now. So you're not focusing on what am I doing with my legs, my feet, my knees, my hands, but focusing on the hips, breathing into the hips, a sense of releasing, holding or tension as you breathe out of the hips. And steadying the mind by bringing the mind's attention fully to the breath as it undertakes that process of breathing into the hips. Okay, so if you've got the legs kind of wrapped around each other, then just release that now, but keep the legs in that cross position with one thigh on top of the other. And then bring the arms to rest on the ground at shoulder height. Take an inhale, and then as you exhale, draw the legs over to the left. Just exploring that, seeing how that feels. Again, if it doesn't feel right for the lower back, then you could come back to center. And if you've got the feet lifted, you could place the right foot down and then see how it feels to take the legs over. If it still doesn't feel right, particularly for the lower back, then come straight to taking the knees over to the other side, over to the right. Otherwise, if you're feeling okay to the left, just take a few more breaths there. Again, see if you can come to steadiness in the mind as well as the body. And then if you have got the knees over to the left, inhale back to center and then exhale them over to the right. Take a few breaths there. And inhale back to center. Use an inhale to unravel the legs and then an exhale to replace feet on the mat as you need to. Just pause there for a moment with soles of the feet on the mat. Take a moment to just notice how the body is, how the breath is, how the mind is. You can either stay in stillness for a few more breaths, or you might take some windscreen wiper movements with the legs if that feels good for easing out through the hips. So alternately taking the knees over to one side, back to center, over to the other side, back to center. A few repetitions in that way. Okay, and then coming back to center and making your way up to seated. So we'll take some cat-cows just to ease out through the spine a little. So I'm inviting you to take them from seated today. If you feel better, if it feels better for your practice, for your body to take from all fours, you're very welcome to do that. But otherwise you could come to and sort of inviting a little bit of opening in the hips might feel good at this point, in which case taking Sukhasana, sitting with legs crossed. is what I'd invite you to do. But any seated position, including sitting on a chair, can work for you here as well. Ease into your cat-cow movements in your own time, just knowing that on each inhale, you're drawing shoulders back to create space for the chest to draw forwards, allowing the tailbone to draw back. And as you exhale, you're allowing the shoulders to round forwards here to support the movement of the middle of the spine, drawing back. Just let the head drop, let the tailbone tuck under. Just continue at your own pace, matching the movement to the breath. And as you start to match the movement to the breath, just noticing the sense of steadiness that that can bring to the mind. So we are moving the body here, but just noticing where the steadiness is here. So there's a sense of steadiness in the body through our rootedness into and connection with the ground. There's a steadiness of movement as we match our movement to the breath. And as we do that, we bring our mind's attention, our focus to the breath. So a nice example, cat-cow, particularly seated perhaps if you tend to spend a lot of your day seated, or you have times in the day where you are seated, that this could be a nice way of just bringing a little bit of steadiness to the mind. You know, it doesn't have to be even, you know, it doesn't need to be meditation or breath work, for example. It could be just a little bit of movement with breath that encourages the mind to just focus on the breath as you move the body with the breath. Great. Okay, coming back to stillness. And we will make our way up to standing. So you're very welcome to make your way up to standing in whatever way you want to. You can come straight to standing, or you could come via a downward dog and a forward fold. And make your way up from there. So take your time to come to standing, just knowing that we will then meet in mountain pose. So no hurry. If you're there right now, then you're taking that time to really settle into, find steadiness in your mountain pose. If you're flowing to get there, then you're finding that steadiness of mind in that flowing movement. Whatever you're doing right now, you're with the breath. You're focusing on and being with the breath. In your mountain pose, feet are firmly rooted. Tailbone is drawing down, and you've got that tilt to the pelvis, so the lower back is long, glutes are engaged. Maybe navel lightly towards spine to support you as well. On your next inhale, raise your arms up to shoulder height, have the palms facing forwards. As you exhale, draw the arms forwards, bring the right arm above the left arm, and then take your hands round to your shoulders. So you're giving yourself a hug. So hands might be kind of tops of the arms, might be shoulders, might be round towards the shoulder blades, just depends on bodies and proportions. But see if on your next exhale, you can have a sense of softening down through the tops of the shoulders, feeling that softening coming all the way down the body, through to the feet, through into the ground, finding that sense of rootedness and stability from the ground. On each inhale, see if you can notice the space that you're breathing into here, so particularly space between the shoulder blades at the back here. And on your exhales, having that sense of the shoulders softening down, and in doing so that you're inviting some easing out and some greater spaciousness around the shoulders, around the shoulder girdle and even the tops of the arms here. So although I feel like we're really kind of constricting the shoulders here, we're also, in doing so on each exhale, as we let the shoulders release down, finding more openness around the shoulders. So either staying here, working with the breath in this way, or if your elbows are pretty much on top of each other, so don't strive to get them there, but if they are, then you could explore drawing the forearms up to vertical, so the fingertips are pointing up towards the ceiling. And once you've done that, check that you can still then find that sense on your exhale of the shoulders softening down. So if by lifting the arms up, that just caused the shoulders to kind of punch forward here and you kind of lost the pose, then much better to stay here so you've got that space to keep finding that release through the shoulders. If you've got the forearms up, then you could explore, a little like we did with the legs, explore whether there's scope for the arms to wrap around each other a little more, so palms of the hands start to come together. Again, still then checking in that you can still find that sense of the shoulder, tops of the shoulders softening down here, that it gives you even more scope for that to happen rather than it just causes you to do this. So you want this to be happening, not this. Come to steadiness for the last few breaths. Allow the mind to be with the breath. And then on your next inhale, unravel the arms and bring the arms back out to the sides, palms facing forwards. As you next exhale, bring the arms forwards again, left arm above right this time. Give yourself a hug. On your next exhale, see if the shoulders might release down a little more. So even if you're thinking you're going to raise the forearms up, take at least a few breaths in this way. And again, be prepared for it to feel different on this side. Trying to deeply feel that sense of release. So down through the tops of the shoulders, but see if you can follow that sense of release with the breath all the way down the body, through down into the feet, into the ground. And then exploring any variations if you want to. Forearms up, arms wrapped around. And again, you might explore those. They might feel fine. You know, this might not be happening, but it might feel much better for the body, more helpful, or you know, like more helpful stuff is happening, or more good stuff is happening with that sort of initial hug position. So just taking what feels right for you. Again, just come to a place of steadiness for the last few breaths. Let the mind just be with the breath now, letting go of any sense of looking for any other variations or any refinements. Just let the mind be with the breath. Let the breath be finding that softening and release in the shoulders on each exhale. Use an inhale to unravel the arms and bring them back out to the sides again. And then exhale the arms down. And you can take some rolls of the shoulders if that feels good, anything that feels good here, one way and the other, or taking them alternately. Great. Okay, so we're just going to do a little bit of work with chair pose. So you can either work with chair pose with feet hip width apart, so you know, from your mountain pose, your classic mountain pose, or you could take feet together so that the inner edges of the feet are alongside each other. There's just a little gap between the heels at the back. If you're familiar with chair pose and you know what works best for you, feel free to take that. If you're exploring, then take one, see how that feels. You can always explore the other way. We'll come into it a few times. So either way, wherever you've got the feet, come back to that mountain pose now. So all of those same cues as before, finding that awareness between the feet and the mat, so that we worked on when we were lying on our backs. Find all of that again, a sense of the feet actively rooting down into the mat, tailbone drawing down, navel towards spine. Draw the shoulders back and down. Have the arms in a position that supports that action of the shoulders drawing back and down. So So exploring the elbow creases facing forwards here to support that. Bring your awareness to your back body. So see if you can just either picture, or you might have a sense of breathing into the back body here. Just see it, and if it feels helpful to you, you might close your eyes and notice how that feels if you're standing with feet together. Might be a little more challenge with balance there, but just seeing if you can have a greater sense of awareness of your back body. Back of your head, shoulder blades, lower back, buttocks, backs of the legs. And now seeing if you can bring some more weight back into the heels. So keep your awareness in your back body. Have a sense of the weight coming back into the heels more, and maybe even lifting the toes up off the mat if that feels okay for you, as a very kind of clear and sort of physical encouragement to let the weight come back into the heels more. Keep the tailbone drawing down, navel towards spine. Bring your hands onto your hips. And on your next exhale, start to lower your bum down as if you were lowering yourself very slowly into a chair. Keep the weight in the heels and keep the tailbone drawing down. So don't collapse into the lower back and push the ribs forward to make space to be able to come lower down. For this version of chair pose, we want to keep the tailbone drawing down, even if it feels then like it's a very small movement that you're making. On your next inhale, option to take the arms forward to shoulder height, or you can keep hands on hips or have them alongside you in more of a mountain pose. On each inhale, see if you can bring a bit more lift to the chest. Exhale, can you have a sense of the bum, the hips lowering a little more? That might not be a physical movement, but just bringing focus there. A couple more breaths if you can. Let the mind be steady here. Let the mind be with the breath. Inhaling, lifting the chest. Exhaling, lowering the bum. On your next exhale, draw the chest forwards and down. Bring the belly to the thigh. So you're keeping that bend in the knees as you let the belly come to the thighs, and then you can let the arms, the head, the neck release down here. So you're in a deep forward fold. And then on your next inhale, draw the hips up. So press down through the feet as you draw the hips up. The head, the neck is still releasing down. The upper body is still releasing down. So you're in your standing forward fold now. That's the breath there. Okay, so from here we're going to come back into our chair pose. So we're coming from the other direction this time. So again, weight into the heels, press down into the feet, particularly the heels. You can bring hands on the hips if that feels helpful, or just have them dangling down at the moment. And then as you inhale, press into the feet, draw the chest forwards and up. So the bum is staying down here. As you take that movement, have that sense of the tailbone drawing down more. On your next inhale, you might take the arms forward. You might even explore taking the arms a little higher, anywhere up to them being alongside the ears. On your next inhale, press down into the feet as you draw yourself up to standing. So straightening the legs as you draw yourself up. If you've got the arms raised or at shoulder height, you can then exhale them down. Great. Just take a moment here, noticing, letting the breath settle, letting the mind be with the breath. And if you set an intention at the start of your practice, just take a moment to recall that now. So although we might not be doing lots of kind of cardio type movement here, we are activating some pretty big muscles, as you might be feeling now. So there's kind of a lot of energy stuff going on, and as far as the sort of brain response to that goes, you know, that can sort of really kick off the the nervous system in terms of a kind of you know, ramping it up, the sympathetic nervous system. So just noticing that. Maybe that's the experience for you, maybe it's not, but perhaps just noticing the potential for the breath to help bring the mind into a little more steadiness here. You know, the brain might well interpret this kind of, you know, when we're really getting the muscles involved as being that a kind of, you know, we've got a challenge here, or, you know, in kind of more primitive terms, a threat of some sort. So seeing if you can keep using the mind to keep some steadiness here. So we'll take this one more time. Find that rootedness. If you're playing around with feet apart or feet together, if you're exploring that, then you could take the other version now and notice the difference, see how that feels. Find that rootedness, bring the awareness to the back body, tailbone drawing down. And then when you're ready, bring the weight into the heels a bit more, maybe the toes lift or the toes are just light on the mat. And then use an exhale to lower the bum down, keep the tailbone drawing down, don't let the tailbone tip back here. And then on an inhale, you can take the arms forward if you want, or you could take them a little further up or further up still so they're alongside the ears. Use each inhale to find a sense of a bit more lift in the chest. So you've got kind of space in the front body here as well. Each exhale to find a sense of the hips, the bum lowering down a little more, or that might be a physical movement. Keep the tailbone drawing down. Couple more breaths, see if the mind can stay steady and let the mind stay with the breath. Lovely. And then on your next exhale, draw the chest forwards and down. So belly comes to the thighs, then you can let the head, the neck, the shoulders release. Lovely. And then use your next inhale to draw the hips up. So navel towards spine, hips drawing up. Keep the head, the neck, the shoulders releasing. A couple of breaths there, maybe extending the exhale if that feels good. Lovely. Okay, so then coming to your chair pose from your forward fold this time. So from your forward fold, on your next exhale, lower the hips, the bum down, and then use an inhale to draw the chest forwards and up. And as you do that, see if you can really have a sense of the tailbone drawing down. And then again, you can always bring the arms forward, see how that feels. Super. Press down into the mat as you inhale and draw yourself all the way up to standing. And then exhale, release the arms if you need to. Be in mountain pose for a moment here. Again, let the breath settle, let the mind settle. Great. So have your feet hip width apart now, if they're not already. Find that awareness through the feet again, that connection between the feet and the mat. And bring that more fully into the left foot now. So just as we did when we were lying on our backs at the start, press more fully down to the left foot so you become light on the right foot. Find a point to gaze at a few feet in front of you to help keep the mind steady as we play with balance a little now. And you could bring hands to the hips as well if that feels helpful. Become really light on the right foot so you can lift the right heel, maybe even come up onto the ball or even the tip toe of the right foot. Press down through the left foot. And then bring a little bit of a bend into the left knee. And as you do that, you can let the right knee bend a bit more as well. And then see if you can come into bring the weight into the heel of the left foot a bit more. And then we're going to lower down in that same kind of chair pose movement. So on your next exhale, bring the hips, bring the bum further down, just as we did in chair pose. The only difference being that you're just on the tip toe or the ball of the right foot. And then you might stay here, or you might explore inhaling and just lifting the right foot up, maybe just for a breath before you replace it, maybe for a few breaths. And then press down into the left foot as you inhale, draw yourself back up to standing, and then replace the right foot. So we'll just do a little bit more playing with this side before we come to the other side. And it might be that you do exactly as we just did. But also the key thing is that you're clear on kind of that process for coming back up, because we're playing. So come back to standing, take some breaths whenever you need to. This isn't a challenge of kind of staying in any kind of balanced pose for a period of time. So come back into that balance that we just took. So weighting to the left heel, your light, or on the tiptoe, or all of the right foot, and then you're lowering down in your chair pose action here. And then variations to explore would be to raise the right foot up. You might also explore taking the right foot over to the left, and then bringing the right thigh on top of the left. So again, that same kind of action as we took, lying on our back, so crossing the legs, and then you can bring the top of the right foot to rest lightly on the mat on the other side there. You could also explore, just as we did when we were lying on our backs, whether there's any scope to take the right foot to wrap around the left calf. And the other thing that you could play with here, if you want to, is your eagle. So you're in eagle pose here. Your legs are in eagle pose. Is you could play with your eagle arms. So in that case, you're taking the arms out to the side, then bringing them forward, left arm above right, and giving yourself a hug, or taking any of those variations we explored before. So again, just variations to play with. We're not kind of doing a workshop on it. We haven't got lots of time on it, but just taking some exploration here. And wherever you are, see if you can come to a place of steadiness, even if it might be for a breath or two, might be, whatever it is for you, but see if you can come to steadiness and let the mind come to steadiness here as well. So particularly with a pose where there might be lots going on and some kind of decisions to make, if you like, about what you're doing, see if you can come to a place of steadiness and just be with the breath. Lovely. Again, any complaints from the knees, find a variation that doesn't cause the knees to complain. Great. Okay, so taking your time wherever you are now, if you're in any variation, taking your time to bring the right foot back over if you need to, and then you can press into the left foot as you come up to standing and replace the right foot. Be in your mountain pose. Allow a couple of breaths to just bring you back to steadiness, symmetry, even weightedness. And then bring your focus to your right foot. So going through that same process on the other side now, bringing that same mindfulness to the other side, consciously becoming more active through the right foot so that you're lighter in the left foot, bringing all of that awareness down into the feet. So you've got a strong sense of connection with the ground, finding that steadiness from the ground. Having that point to gaze at a few feet in front of you can help the mind stay really steady too. And just take in your own time, you're now exploring that movement. And again, it might be that what is great for your practice right now is working here with that movement of bringing the hips down, being very light on that left foot, maybe exploring a little bit of lift there, maybe not. But just taking your time. And if you're coming to the arm variation, then you're doing right arm above left as you take any variations on the arms. So with balance poses, it can be a kind of in my experience anyway, a bit of a double-edged thing with the mind. So if you can come to a place of steadiness in your balance, then it can be a wonderful way of really encouraging the mind to focus, because it's kind of hard for the mind to focus on anything else when it's having to sort of, you know, make the brain focus on keeping balance. So it can be great for focus and concentration in that way. The other side of it that I found in my experience is also that the mind can interpret this as a challenge, and therefore can get a bit kind of ramped up and also a bit excited if you do manage to hold the balance, and then the mind's kind of gone off again and isn't with the breath anymore. So might be a different experience for you, but just noticing whatever it is and seeing if, again, if you haven't already, see if even if it's just for a breath, you can find some steadiness in the mind as well as the body. Right. Okay. So eagle pose. One other thing, you know, perhaps for another time if you're practicing this, is the kind of the lower down, like on a physical level, the lower down you can get the hips, then the more space that tends to offer you to kind of play around with the legs then, and perhaps find a bit more work into the hips. But that's why working on the ground can be a great way of exploring this too. So coming out of your eagle pose on that side now, bringing the foot across if you need to, and then pressing into the standing leg as you draw yourself back up. Replace the lifted foot down. And then making your way down onto your back. So we're nearly at Shavasana. So grabbing anything that you'll need for your Shavasana. Taking your time to do that, just knowing that once you're down onto your back, then you're hugging the knees into the chest, having one hand on each knee, a little gap, a little bit of a gap between the knees. That feels okay for you. And then if it feels okay, you can take the knees a little wider apart so that you're still drawing them in towards you, but they're drawing more in the direction of your armpits now. So you're bringing a bit more opening around the hips and the groins. You can either stay here or you could explore the other variations on happy baby pose. So if you're doing that, then keep the knees where they are, so they're drawing it more in the direction of the armpit. Release the hands from the knees and take the arms and the hands out in front of you now, so they're coming between the legs, between the sort of insides of the legs, and reaching through to grab either the ankles, or if you can reach them, then grab the outer edge of each foot, so that the foot is kind of pressing into the hands on each side now. And then use an inhale to draw the soles of the feet up, so that the soles of the feet then face up towards the ceiling. Knees are still drawing down now, and now it's more a feeling of them as if they're kind of trying to draw down into the mat alongside you. Feet, soles of the feet are facing up towards the ceiling. If you've got the ankles, then see if you can really have a sense of the ball of each foot pressing up towards the ceiling. If you've got hold of the outer edge of the feet, then have a feeling that the feet are kind of pushing against the hands. See if you can exhale and let the shoulders soften down a little more here. Right. If you're watching this on recorded and you have more time, then you could spend a bit more time in happy baby pose. You could even take a Baddha Konasana after that. But now, whilst we're in the live session, then if you're in that second variation of happy baby pose, then let go of the ankles or the feet now. bring the hands back to the knees, and then you can exhale, let the feet down so that the knees are still bent. You're back in that position of hugging the knees in, but they're in the direction of the armpits. And then use an exhale to replace the feet onto the mat and make your way into your Shavasana. So whatever that is for you. Right now, grabbing any extra layers you might want, anything for covering your eyes. Coming to steadiness, stillness in the body. Noticing all the points of connection that the body has with the ground. Finding stillness and steadiness in that connection with the ground. And supporting, encouraging your mind to find steadiness now as you bring your mind's attention to the breath. Just let the breath be in its natural rhythm. Steady breath, allowing the mind to be with the steady breath. And perhaps seeing if you can find an awareness of a stiller, steadier part of you that observes here, that isn't the body or the breath or the mind, but that stiller part of you that observes each of these. In that place of steadiness, you might notice perhaps the mind distracted away from the breath. Just using that as an opportunity to gently guide the mind's attention back to the breath. Just being with the breath now and knowing that this space is held for you while you do that. Starting to bring some deeper breaths into your body. slowly bringing some movement back to your body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, rotating wrists and ankles, maybe gently moving the head from side to side. Taking any movements now, any stretches, sighs, yawns, anything that feels good as you bring your full awareness back to your body. And taking your time to make your way back up to a comfortable seated position. Having your gaze soft or your eyes closed as you do that. And taking a moment once you're there, if you set an intention at the start of your practice, to recall that intention now. Bringing palms of the hands together in front of the heart. And taking a moment to be grateful to yourself for making the time for this practice today. And a moment for us to be grateful that we have this practice of yoga available to us. And that we have this means of connection available to us so that we can gather and practice together. And I invite you, if you want to just take a moment now to think of anything else in your life that you're grateful for right now. Bowing your head towards your fingertips. Namaste. Releasing whenever you're ready. Thank you guys, well done.